Our next speaker is Todd Revolt. 15 years of experience in the software industry and a widely admired and in-demand speaker on subjects of interest to us today. Todd, I assume you'll be speaking in English. Come on. Just to say that I'm expecting to hear about augmented reality, touched on several times today, but not yet really defined. And I think we're all looking forward to your talk.
Okay. This and this. Perfect.
I think your slides are going to be up in a second.
So, shalom. So I'm one of the people who flew in from Silicon Valley, and I thought I'd break my speech into two parts. I thought I'd do half of it in Hebrew and half of it in English. So, I'd do one part one part in Hebrew and one part in English. So, Yom Tov. Karim il Todd Revolt. And that is the end of the first part. So thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate you humoring me with my terrible Hebrew, but I enjoyed the opportunity to speak Hebrew. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about who Meta is, and I consider myself to be very, very lucky because I have a job that I actually get to work with a lot of people developing applications for augmented reality. And a lot of people confuse the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what virtual reality is, to us at least, and what augmented reality is, and then show you some examples of augmented reality. So I hope you enjoy it. So Meta is a company that was actually started by a gentleman by the name of Meron Gribetz, who is an Israeli. And we all work at a ranch at the top of a mountain in Silicon Valley overlooking Apple and Google and all of the big businesses that you know, Cisco as well, no offense. We're about 70 people, and most of the people are professors and scientists and engineers, and about 20% of the people are PhDs that work at Meta. And we actually have a shipping product. We have something that's called the Meta One Developer Kit, and that developer kit is sent out to thousands of people around the world, and they're developing applications on them. It is a developer kit. It's not ready for consumer. So if you're watching a Tony Stark movie, an Iron Man movie, and you see him lift a whole village up and put it on another place, that's a movie, that's fiction, that's fantasy. I'm going to tell you what is reality, which is actually pretty darn cool in itself. And then we recently got funding that we announced just not that long ago. So this is a little bit about the people that work at Meta. Of course, there's Meron, and then there's Steve Feiner. Steve Feiner is one of the gentlemen who's been involved in augmented reality for a very long time. He's at the University of Columbia, and I'll talk a little bit about the academic partnerships that we have as well. And then we also have, Ben Sand, who's our CEO, and Ray Lowe, and so forth. But Steve Mann is also a really big figure. He's one of the first people that started wearable computing, and I know some people here know Steve Mann well. Then we also have a bunch of other PhDs that are running around at Meta. You literally cannot have a conversation at Meta without a PhD being involved in the conversation. And then we have a lot of academic partnerships. We're involved in the HCI lab at Columbia. We are also involved with Steve Mann's lab out of the University of Toronto. And then we have a relationship with Stanford University as well. And this is what the Meta One looks like. And has anyone here tried augmented reality glasses before? I know there's a few people down here because we had a fair over the last, or a workshop over the last couple of days, but so not very many people. Has anybody tried a virtual reality headset? So a few more people, okay. So this is what the Meta One looks like, and in the Meta One here we have a depth sensor, and we have an RGB camera. It has microphones, it has Dolby 3D sound, and basically what we let you do through our algorithm is use common hand gestural movements. So we let you grab things, we let you poke on things, we let you pinch things, we let you rotate things. These are all motions that we've learned throughout time that are very natural to us. A motion that we recently learned, does anyone know what a motion is that we recently learned? This. This is a motion that we recently really fell in love with, going from one page to the next, right? And so with the Meta One, we let you take advantage of those common movements that you have known since basically the beginning of time. And so first I thought I'd show you a little bit of difference between what's augmented reality and what's virtual reality. Virtual reality is a completely immersed experience. You can think of where you can be wherever you want to be. It's the equivalent to me of putting a bucket over my head and having the experience of going anywhere I want in the world. And so I thought I'd show you just a quick little video. Maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't, but it's a really interesting video about an experience that people had. I think this was done in Scandinavia, and they had an experience of working with an Oculus Rift that had a Raspberry Pi and a camera on it as well. And so I'll show you that really quickly. Maybe. There we go.
Emma.
Yes. Hämtar du bollen, Jacke?
Sen när vi går ut och provar lite grann så kommer normalläget vara att vi kör ungefär på en 1/3 sekundlag. Ska vi se. Och 3 sekunder. Ja,
Det känns lite som en så här Super Mario-grej.
Hör du mig?
Ja.
Ställ platsplan. 4, 1, 2, 3. Kom igen. Hej. 4 steg till mig. Oj, förlåt.
Även att jag visste att jag var hitåt, så var det som att jag visste inte vilket håll jag skulle vända på.
Man vet inte vart man är någonstans.
Det var ju en tjej med gult linne som jag gick in i väldigt mycket där.
Du puttade ju henne flera gånger. Oj, förlåt.
Ja.
Don't try this at home.
Hur mycket mjöl ska det vara?
3.
Men nu har jag mjölk här.
Jag ställer tillbaka den då. Du behöver inte.
Ja. Ska jag tälla tillbaka
Eller nej, men vi kan ju, kanske ska dricka mjölk till.
Aj. Nice.
Du får ju lägga i en pannkaka eller lägga i smeten i en skärm.
Övertramp.
Du backar bak lite.
Det där har vi inte räknat med riktigt.
So a really interesting story about how this occurred, right? And what we find is that what you saw in that video is you have a lot of isolation. And then we saw Daniel had a really great picture of 3 kids looking at a tablet as well. And you notice they were all looking at tablet. They were disconnected from each other. They were all engaged in their own device. And with this device, you're isolated. That's the same experience. You're isolated from the rest of the world. And we don't want you to be isolated. We want you to be together. We want you to be collective. We want to collaborate. As people, as a species, we need to collaborate with each other. That's how we further ourselves, right? So you'll see isolation. You also see there was a safety issue there. I mean, outside of the kitchen issue and the bowling, I mean, it looked like it could be, it could go so many bad ways. But there's a safety issue. And in this video, you may have seen as well, when the Oculus Rift first came out, they had a roller coaster ride. And if you may have seen this, and this is what happened. So here he goes. He's getting ready to go over the... Notice the only person laughing is the one filming. This poor guy is not feeling well. And if you noticed in the video that Avi showed earlier, there was Boaz who was in the video, and he took off the virtual reality headset, and he wasn't feeling well either. So what happens is you have this visual and vestibular disconnect. Your IMU is saying, I'm sitting still, but your eye is saying, no, we're moving. And your IMU is saying, no, I'm sitting still. And so you have this disconnect, and that's often what happens when you start to feel ill. You start to feel nauseous. And it actually happens that it gets worse as the more you use it. At least it does for me. I can wear an Oculus for about 30 seconds now, and then for the rest of the day, I'm shot. And this is what happens. You get the motion sickness, right? And so why are we focused on AR? Well, I think this next little video, and you have to catch what he says right at the beginning. So we did this workshop in London, and we did it at a place where they had children that came to after-school program. And we invited the kids to come down and try the equipment after the apps were built. They basically built apps in a day, and we had them come down and try the apps. And I think about this when I think about my 6-year-old son too, and I'll show you this video really quick, and watch what he says right at the beginning. Yay, I'm so excited. He puts the headset on. We don't even give him instructions on what to do, and he automatically starts to interact because he can see through the display. He knows exactly what to do. He sees the digital object, and he just reaches out and grabs it and starts interacting with it. It's this really simple notion that you don't have to teach what motions you need to take. They're just natural to you. And that's really what we try to do at Meta, is try to take advantage of the natural things that you do every day. And so it was really excited to see him. And my son's the same way. I put the headset on him. He immediately is attaching wings to airplanes and all kinds of different things. I don't even explain to him what to do. He just knows what to do automatically. And we think it's inevitable. If you looked at, like I mentioned earlier, that the picture of this kid's looking at the iPads, if I put my phone in front of me right now, I've now alienated all of you. I know what I'm looking at. Do you know what I'm looking at? I'm actually looking at all of you. But we think it's inevitable. You want to have a heads-up display. You want to be able to look out into the world and see the world in front of you. And we face these really big issues. I mean, we saw in the last presentation about the problems in the Great Barrier Reef, which is an incredible place to dive. If you've never had a chance, you should do it. We have some really big problems that we're trying to think. If we can teach, we live in 3D. If we can teach in 3D and we can further our learning, and we can learn so much more, so much faster, and that's what really excites us. So hopefully some of the things that we show you coming up now will not only give you examples, but also stir your imagination. Because we think, let me ask you, why do you have a desk? Why? Does anybody know why they have a desk? It's a place to put your monitor, right? It's a place to put your laptop. Why do you need that? Why are we, this screen right here, it's this rectangular screen, why are we confined to this rectangular screen? There's no reason for it. We should be able to interact with content anywhere we want, whenever we want, without having to look at a small digital screen to do so. And so we can further teaching in different sciences and math and everything you can think of. We built an application in a day at this workshop that we did in Yeroham. I think I'm pronouncing it Yeroham. And it was, my Hebrew is terrible. We immediately made a chemical application where you can attach different atoms to make compounds. And we did water and we did carbon dioxide. It was really incredible. So we see these types of presentations being done all the time. We see sort of remote presentations and collaboration and things of that nature. We see information panels and we see 3D creation in them. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go a little bit faster now. So right now in the medical world, if you want to learn how to do things, you pretty much do it at the time. Did you know that the fourth largest cause of death in the United States is medical error? More people die of medical error in a year than of AIDS, motor vehicle accidents, and breast cancer in 1 year. And what happens is, this is what simulation used to look like. Then they came out with these smart mannequins. And then they found out that in a study in 1999 that they were killing about 100,000 people and spending about $80 billion, and more people were dying. And then the military, or the Department of Defense came out in the United States and they said, well, wait a second. If we give our people medical training, we can actually lower the fatality rate from 31% down to 4.5%. Think of the lives that are saved in that. I mean, these are real lives that we're talking about here. And so you start to see all these medical simulation plants pop up. And you can see they look like this, but they're very sterile environments. It's basically the equivalent of booking a lab room or an office, a meeting room or something like that. And then you see this picture. I threw this picture in there because I thought it was really interesting. Here he's teaching these people. Look at the position that these people are in. They're all sitting there, hands folded. Is that the way you'd want to learn? So for somebody to work on you? I think there's a better way of doing it. And so we also see this current medical simulation of these smart mannequins. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a scene that was set up in virtual reality. And we have this endoscopic procedure that's occurring on the lower right-hand side. This is another company that came through one of our workshops. They wanted to be able, right now he's looking at a screen across the room. Well, they want to be able to focus on the patient. So they're able to do things like have panels where you can actually see, the person's, vital signs and the next steps in the procedure. And they can also see where the camera on the end of the device, as a matter of fact. And so with one of our partners that came through, they built an app where you basically put a small little marker on a table anywhere. And this is what a real trauma center looks like. I mean, it's messy, right? There's supplies everywhere, and cables aren't perfectly neatly wrapped or anything like that. And anywhere they have now, they can put a little marker on a table, and they can have any type of patient that they want. Now, I'm running out of time, but here's one that they did at, here's a teenage girl, and they're at TechCrunch Disrupt, and you're seeing what they're seeing through their glasses, and they're both interacting with this patient. This patient's having a seizure, and they're able to interact with this patient. And you can have a variety of different patients, different ethnicities, babies, pregnant women, elderly people, large people, small people, whatever you want. You can create all of these different scenarios with any type of person. So then you have this sort of overlay. Here's an idea of panels in the upper left-hand corner with the doctors. Then you can look at things much more graphically as you go along. And so here's another app that somebody built in one of our presentations. I know I'm late, but I want to show this because it's really interesting. You've probably seen this movie. If you haven't, it's a really good movie.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
So this was now done in the Meta 1.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Think of the communication possibilities with something like this 3D visualization. It's amazing what can happen with augmented reality. You see design work happening. You see logistics work. I threw this one in there because I kind of was interesting. When we pieced together this chemistry app, if you didn't have the right atom, if you didn't have the right element, then it wouldn't allow you to attach it. And this is the same type of situation here. If you go for the wrong part, it throws up a red dot for you. If you go for the right part, it throws up a green dot for you. So it's really, sort of teaches, as we go along, instant feedback on whether or not you're doing the right step or not. And so the possibilities are endless. I mean, hopefully this sort of stirs a little bit of your imagination to think, gosh, where are we going? And I think about this technology, and I'm already maybe a little bit old for it, right? And I play with it every day. But my son, he loves it. And my younger son, he's going to love it even more. I mean, it's amazing to see what these guys can do with these things. So thank you so much. We've taken a lot of these cameras are getting smaller in the phones. Everybody has a camera in their phone right now and everything like that. So we're just sort of taking advantage of the technology that's already built. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.